Okay, hi all my felty friends out there. I have decided I'm going to do this little video I was talking about in the last one of a sleepy mouse that will fit inside one of these baubles, which I will then tie some ribbon around so you can hang them on your Christmas tree to make nice little gifts for people, or stocking fillers even, who knows. So as I said, the previous video I did about all the tools and things that I used and explained all of that to you. Hopefully that's made things a little bit clearer if you weren't sure, or clearer from my perspective anyway, because that's how I do it. I'm going to get my core wool and I'm going to start to make a sleepy mouse. Now these are quite simple and easy. They do not require an armature of any sort, so therefore, because even though it's a mouse, and you know that I have, when I make my mice, they always have little feet and toes and things like that, but this one's going to be curled up in a ball. He's going to be asleep, so we don't need to go to all that extent. And as well as that, they do make cheap little gifts for people. The baubles you can buy, I bought these from Amazon. You can get anything from 10 to 20, 30 in a pack. So to make my sleepy mice, I am going to take my wool. I'm going to put it in this sort of shape just to give me an idea. So his head and his belly. It's going to be a bit like a broad bean, but slightly more exaggerated. So if I start needling this one, and I'm going to use, and I will say it's my this is my 36 gauge needle that I'm going to use, and I do use them generally for everything, 36 and 38. I do use them. They've got twisted. I don't know if you can see, if I turn that, you can see that it's slightly twisted. The shaft of the needle is twisted, and I've got the barbs that go up. Some needles have more barbs than others. It depends on what needle it is you use, but I mean, you can see that this is doing the job quite nicely. It's not harsh, it's not crunching, it's just going in really, really well, and it's knotting those fibres together. You can see how it's knotting the fibres together. And this bit's going to be, this section here, this is going to be like a ball. This is what I want it to look like, a little ball. Okay, so there's his little fat belly. So I'm making that into a nice little round ball where he's curled up to sleep. And then I'm going to shape his little head. And you will need to keep checking that what you're creating is still going to fit into your bauble. So if it's a little bit on the large side, then just stab into it a bit more, make it a bit tighter. It will shrink. Looking promising. The other thing is, you've got to decide how you want him positioned. Is he going to be lying on his back? Is he going to be lying on his side? I think this one, I think he's going to be lying on his side. So let's just finish shaping his head a bit more, and then I can work out how I'm going to structure him to look like he's lying on his side. So a mouse's head, it actually slopes downwards to the nose. And I'm going to give him puffy cheeks only because it's got a bit of a cute factor to it. It's not necessarily exactly how a mouse would look in real life, but I want to give him the cute factor. By looking down at the top of him, you can judge that you've got both sides of his head even. Alright, let's put his nose shape in. And come down, marking his mouth. Now the noses down here, they are quite slim as well, so we need to bring that down and in. And you can see I'm actually using quite a bit of pressure on this needle now to sculpt that nose. And then other times I'll just use it softly. Now I have marked where his eyes are going to go, but I'm actually going to use my tool now, my pokey as I call it, my bradawl, to pull those eyes back out, because one, I'm not particularly happy with where I've put them, and two, his eyes aren't actually going to be round plastic eyes. So I've pulled that out because I'm going to do little eye slits in a minute. But I'm just getting this nose right because he really does have a big conch at the moment. How are we doing for size? Yep, we're okay still. Gonna give him some little bit of cheek muscle there. And do the same on the other side. Check it from above. Nope. Get the old trusty bradawl out. And then ears are going to go about here. There we go. So we've got a little chubby mouse. And his eyes are going to be like little half moons because he's sleeping. Okay. Now then, I've got his body done and his head where I'm happy with him. I like the size, I like the way he sits in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just do a sort of a V shape which will distinguish his little leg muscles curled up against his belly. So just doing that, I'm just going to do this. And that kind of gives him like his thigh part of his legs. And I'm going to go right round because he is literally curled up in a little ball. Okay, so just by doing that, just doing that little bit there, has straight away given him the start of a pair of legs. And all you need to do for his little legs is decide whether I'm going to use pink. I'm going to use my 3, or in this case 2 pronged needle just to give it a bit of a tighter and then the good old rolling in the hand thing, which helps to knot those fibres together. And what I like to do is I like to just concentrate on putting like a little well in, like where the paw pad would be. And you can trim off any fluffy bits you get on the back. Trim those off. And then that will sit in there like that. And that's his little leg. And don't worry about getting pink all over his belly for a minute, because you can go over that with a bit of white cool wool and cover that up. Okay, so then we'll do the same again. I'm forever sticking needles in my fingers. I did have a comment one day about how I'd stuck the needle in the backs of my hands. I haven't actually stuck the needle in the backs of my hands. I do suffer from a skin condition called psoriasis, which I have had for nearly 50 years now. It's a strange condition. It comes and goes when it pleases. For some people it goes away in the sunshine. For some people like myself it gets worse. And I'm coming up to Christmas, and I'm hoping that, as I have for the last 20 years since I had, or 28 years since I had my son, I have improved at Christmas. So we never know. We'll have to wait and see what happens this year. But yes, it's a hereditary condition I was born with, that my ancestors have passed down through the ages. So if anybody was wondering, that's what I have. But there you go. It's part of me. It's part of my life. It makes no difference. Not to me anyway. Okay, so on with his other leg. Right, now obviously we have destroyed what we created originally with his V shape that we made. So I'm going to take some more core wool and I'm going to put that over the top, down through the middle of the 2 feet. And over the top, cover up all that pink. It's very forgiving, this white core wool. You can cover up a multitude of sins and do all sorts of things with it to make it work in your favour. It's brilliant stuff. Okay, so there we have 2 little feet, little legs coming out from these big thigh muscles we've got going on here. Okay, and we're still quite comfortable in our bauble. And now I'm going to give him one little arm that's going to come up and go across here, as if he's resting on it to sleep, and the other one probably will come across his belly. So a bit more of my core wool. I'm going to kind of start off getting a rough shape of arm. Oops, losing my little mouse. And then I'm going to put the shoulder in place. And then bend it up. I'm going to take a bit off, and I'll tell you why, because I'm going to make him a little paw, a little pink paw. Sometimes these animals, well, all the time really, these animals kind of talk to me and tell me what they want to look like. I'm never always 100% sure, even when I have plans of what I want to make. You know, I wanted to make a big dragon, so I'm making a big dragon, but it's taking a while because it's almost like you get a feeling of what it needs to be, and it might not always be what you originally set out to do. You know, you might see something develop and you might think, oh, actually that would look better, and you change the shape or the idea or the colour or whatever it is you're doing. And I find needle felting is like that. You start off with an idea in your head, and by the time you've finished, it's something completely different. But unless I'm particularly making something for somebody, I would go with the flow, and I would just let it decide what it wants to be itself. Now I'm trying to put this little paw inside the arm, inside the white core wool, because I'm not actually going to make this mouse coloured. I'm going to just do him a white one. You know, well, you will find out that I am very, very partial to my little white mice. I do love making my little white mice. I do all sorts of things with them. Yeah, not the easiest of angles to get to, but there we go. That's his little arm. I mean, you could, if you were just doing one of these, a one-off for somebody, you could actually do one of the wire armatures for it and make it that little bit more realistic. But I'm just trying to make a cheap and cheerful little gift for somebody. And it's making it simply. Alright, so you're going to have an elbow around here somewhere. You don't want to make his arms like an orangutan's arms. You want to try and keep them, they're going to be little short ones, not great big, huge, long ones. Nearly got my finger. I'm going to just put his little arm, another little arm on the other side. If anybody can think of anything they would like me to do a tutorial on, please comment down below and let me know if there's a particular animal or anything particularly that you'd like to know, any questions that you have. Like I say, the last video I did was about the equipment that I use and about my rice bags. That was all from questions that somebody put on. How did I do such and such? What did I use? And quite rightly too. You know, if you're going to put tutorials up, you do really should start off by explaining what it is you use and how you go about doing it. You know, everybody's different. Like I say, I use a rice bag. Lots of people get on better with using blocks of foam. And that's great. That's whatever you find is easiest. But I watched a tutorial from somebody who used a rice bag when I first started out, and I made my own because it's cheaper, obviously, and you can knock them up whenever you need them. I tend to knock up a few at once, so I've got a few spare ones, because they do wear thin. You do, you know, eventually get little holes through them. But yeah, it's good to know. It's good to know what other people use. Anyway, back to my mouse. He's got his hand on his belly. So he's obviously had a good meal inside him. His arms aren't too long. They're not too bad. Obviously, they're doing a job. And his little feet, he's all curled up in his little ball. And he still fits in his bauble. And now I'm going to give him his nose. We're going to stick with the pink theme. So his nose. Just wind that round a little bit. Pop that into place. Now they only have little noses. And I do have a tendency of making them too big. That's better. And his nose does come down like so. Okay, it's even with his little face. So his little nose is there. I'm going to try and attempt to put two little nostrils, if I can. And a little bit of pink, which I'm going to roll in my hand to do his mouth with. Again, you don't want this too thick, so I'm going to pull that out and make it a bit thinner. That's better. I'm going to start right in the middle, right under his nose, and then take each bit down and around. Same on the other side. Twist that round like that, and then push it through, and that ends off. It's like almost like tying a little knot in the end. Not that you need to tie a little knot in the end, but that's what it reminds me of. Just gives you a tidier end. Okay, so there's his little mouth. Touch to his nose. And then his eyes. Now his eyes I'm going to do in grey. I'm not going to do them in black. Actually, I might even do them in brown. See, I'm so undecided. I've got some brown wool. Just a thin bit. Do the same again, give it a roll. Now make sure before you do put your wool in that you mark your eyes so that you know exactly where they're going to go, because it is so easy to get them in the wrong places. Now that's going across there, so that's where my eye needs to start. And it's going around there. Yep, that looks promising. So and I'm going to trim off my ends. There we go, there's one sleepy eye. And then one on the other side, move his little paw out of the way. So there he is, he's sleeping away. Okay, and so last but not least, well, not actually quite last, because he needs a tail as well. So, some of my core wool, my pink, just pull it to make it longer. Go over it with the 2 to 3 needle prong. And then give it the good old roll in the hands. Lots of stabbing. You want it nice and thin but nice and firm at the same time. It's getting out all the impurities. Okay, so tail. Trim that off. And then I'm going to take some of my white core wool and I'm going to wrap that around the tail. Because if you look at a mouse's tail, it's never like a pink bit that suddenly comes out of its bum. It does actually have a bit of white fur around it. So I'm going to use that to cover up the pink. Hopefully. I'm going to have it coming up over his front. There we go, so his tail can come up, he can go round his legs. And under his little hand, I think. So he's having a snooze with his little tail. Right, just checking that that still fits in our bauble. Yes, ears, he needs ears. Last but not least, he needs his ears. Got some fluffy bits sticking out there. Don't want any fluffy bits sticking out, that would be rude. Okay, so for his ears, 2 bits of the pink, roughly in a rounded sort of shape. The Mega Punch, going round in a circle, and then these edgy bits, just tuck them in. Okay, one ear. Okay, so now I will fold the ears at the bottom, so fold them at the base, and then if you just work with a needle around the inside, not right up to the edge, just around the inside, it makes like a bowl shape, a bit like we did with the paws. And then when you've peeled it off your whatever you're working on, you can just trim off all those loose ends. That's it, and you've got an ear. So I'll now just felt that bit together at the bottom. And there's one ear. Same with this one. That's better. So then our ears are going to go right back here. Again, we'll cover up the pink with some white, so don't worry about that. Open them up a wee bit. And I'm going to take them round the side of his head a little bit, because obviously he is asleep. And they have gone a bit floppy in his tiredness. Okay, so big ears. I do like big ears on mice. Get his tail out the way. So there you have him. One very sleepy mouse. And in he goes. Ready for a nice bit of ribbon to be tied around the top so that he can be hung on a Christmas tree.